I'm Thea Quinn. I'm a time traveller. The future is fragile. Things can change instantly, and you won't ever even know it. We're not like other people. Their lives can be changed or erased in a moment, but not us. We're beyond all that. So, does it actually matter what we do? Does anything we do actually matter when you get down to it?
They told us we could see all the paths not taken, like it was so magical, so blasting special. But they left out one important thing. All those paths, none of them include us.
This isn't supposed to happen. We stay the same. Everything else changes. That was the deal. That's why I joined. It's not blasting fair. I am going to fix this. And I am going to die trying. As many times as it takes.
Dearest Mother, what I am about to recount to you will seem beyond comprehension. I have spent these last years in torment, trying to piece together what remains of fractured memories. How does one even attempt to describe the indescribable? They had gone to great lengths to seal Hobbs Barrow. I should have realized their efforts were not only to keep us out, but also to keep something contained within. Oh, Mother, what have I done? Why did you lie to me? To protect me. You failed.
Hey everybody, it's Ron with Ron's Computer Videos. I want to thank you for taking a few minutes out of your afternoon and spending it here with us. Got a great interview today, so let's just get right into it. He's a writer, a programmer, and a producer on some of your favorite adventure titles of the last decade. Mr. Dave Gilbert. Dave, how are you today?
Hi. Yeah, I'm good. I'm good.
Well, again, thanks so much for taking time. I've been playing your games for years.
Oh, thank you. That's
When the opportunity came up to sit down and have a bit of a chat with you, I was like, this is going to be great. So,
well, thank you. That means a lot.
Well, let's just get right to it. So, what got you interested in adventure gaming?
Ooh, when I was about 11 or so, my mom probably made a big mistake of buying me a copy of Infocom's Wishbringer. I'm sure, and I was entranced by it. Like I became obsessed with it, and I'm sure my mom regretted that decision for a very long time because that started my love of video games. And I'm sure until I made it a career, she had many reasons to regret doing that. But that's how it started. So I played a lot of those and I kind of never stopped.
But Dave, you're one of the kids that made it. Because everybody's parents, I'm from the Nintendo generation,
mm-hmm.
and I did play a lot of those the text parser games growing up and things like that. But you're one of the kids that made it, because my parents were like, "Why are you wasting time doing this? They're not going to pay you to do this." And then now it's come all the way around where you can point to people that have made a good way of turning this kind of what people used to see was kind of a waste of time hobby as into something that has really informed people's emotions and built these whole creative worlds. I mean, it's nuts how gaming has really changed in terms of like where you've got Pong on one hand and you have these huge sweeping narrative tales that you're largely producing and writing and involved with these days.
Mm-hmm. I mean, as with most anything, there's a lot of luck involved. I started making them when I was a kid. I made little text adventures in BASIC. That dates me a bit. This was the late 80s. So I made a lot of them. I made a Star Trek text adventure in BASIC, like every nerd. And I'm just really glad the internet did not exist back then, because it wasn't very good, because I don't know how old, but I was a kid. But I always loved doing them. I would actually write, BASIC. The thing about BASIC is that you could easily write it down in notebooks, and I would like write down, just stuff in notebooks.
Oh yeah.
10 print this and whatever. It's crazy. I thought it was this really lame, nerdy thing to do, but I did it anyway. But I didn't really start making games until, I guess, the first game I ever released to the public was in 2001. It was September. I lived in New York. We all know what happened. I was between jobs at the time, and I just made this little game in a weekend, just to get my mind off of everything. I was also in between jobs. I had been laid off from this terrible corporate job. I was just out of college at the time, and I made this little dinky game in a weekend, put it online. People seemed to like it, and so that encouraged me to make more. And I think that's what kept me. That's what encouraged me, was the fact that people seemed to like them. And I always liked writing. I always liked creating, but I could never really make it work for me. And suddenly here was something that people seemed to resonate with, something creative that I could do, and people seemed to like it. And that just encouraged me to make more. And after about 4 or 5 years, I just realized I couldn't envision doing anything else. And meanwhile, I had gotten another job. I was working. I was making the games kind of as a hobby. But after about 4 or 5 years, I decided I didn't want to do anything else. And I had money saved up, and I just took the plunge, not really expecting it to work. But fortunately it did. And almost 20 years later, I'm still doing it. So yeah, I'm incredibly lucky, and I'm incredibly grateful. So yeah, I can't really say here's how I did it, because any advice I give is like 20 years out of date. But above all, it was this feeling of like not wanting to do anything else. That was kind of my driving force. And 20 years later, I'm still doing it. So I must have gotten something right.
Yeah, something was right along the way. Because I mean, again, a lot of your original titles, the things that you had a lot of, that basically that it was your driving impact or driving influence on that game. They feel like a lot of personal stories. So, and I think that's really what helps build an audience, and that's what helps get you kind of recognition as an artist in the space, because it's really easy to make a game that's just like a broad appeal story or some first person shooter kind of things like that. I mean, that's its own totally different thing, but it's but some of these adventure games, like, or you have things that are like even walking simulators, as people call them, sort of like Firewatch or Dear Esther and things like that, where it's just about telling a story and maybe having a puzzle or something just for like a little bit of engagement or whatever. But I really appreciate that. And so I'm glad that you're one of the folks that made it, and you're telling me.
So am I.
Yeah, it's really great. So
thank you. And it's interesting you talk about the personal aspect of it, because that's something that's always been important to me. Is that like I'm driven? There are easier ways to earn a living, and if you don't really love it, really called to do it, if
Mhm.
you're not doing it for any other reason than like fame and money, you're going to be very sad. I felt very strongly, with my first commercial game, the Blackwell Legacy, I didn't have any real skill. I didn't really know what I was doing. But I think that I was really driven. Like I had to make this thing.
Mhm.
And I look at it now and it's extremely ropey. It's all over the place. It breaks every rule that I've set for myself on how to make a good game. But that raw, that underlying, that passion, I mean, this sounds a little pretentious, but that passion was still there. Like I could still see it when I play it and look at it. Like and I think somehow that came across. And I think that's the most important thing when you create something, is that, you have to, as the creator, you have to be sincere. Otherwise, the people experiencing it aren't going to, resonate with it. Like that sincerity can't really be faked.
Mhm.
And that's something that, that's something I always try to remind myself whenever I work on something new. It's like, do I love this? Do I like, is this something like I can really see myself, really, loving 2 or 3 years from now, or however long this is taking, and sometimes just it takes me a long time to get to find a story or something that I really, really feel strongly about, that, and sometimes that can take a long time, which is why sometimes these games take longer to make than I would like. But yeah, that's something I've always felt very strongly about.
Yeah, it's a passion is such an important part of storytelling,
Mhm.
and so
I mean,
if you don't
it's
care,
still work. It's still a business like any other
Yeah.
business,
Mhm.
but like that underlying passion needs to be there. Always.
Oh
Needs to
yeah, it helps if you care about the art you're creating, it'll be
Mhm.
better for it.
Oh yeah.
It's I mean, you can only draw so many paintings of Campbell soup cans before you're just like, you know what, just put them in the Metropolitan Modern Art Museum. I don't even want to see these anymore. Ugh.
Mhm.
But speaking of storytelling and making these adventures that maybe sometimes break the rules, but then kind of maybe as they progressed became formative in kind of what the formula was with all those things. Are you a LucasArts guy or a Sierra guy?
I'm gonna give the subversive answer. I was an Infocom kid.
Yeah.
I had an Apple IIc growing up.
Mhm.
And it couldn't play many of the Sierra, and it couldn't play any LucasArts.
Mhm.
I played, I think it could play King's Quest 1 through 4 and some of the Manhunter games, and that was about it. That was all I could really play back then. But I played all of the Infocom games, so that was my,
Mhm.
that was my. Those are what I played, and I played all of them. I loved them.
Yeah.
And it
I'm a big
wasn't.
lurking horror fan. Because
Mhm.
I love Lovecraftian kind of stuff. So I like the Glue University and on all their Miskatonic and all of that.
Right.
That's my favorite one of those.
It's been so long since I played that one. I remember there was like an elevator,
Mhm.
and you at one point you kill someone with a floor waxer. That's all
Yes,
I remember.
you can or
Mhm.
actually it's like there's a you can get a fire axe, and if you have to, you're actually supposed to cut the cord, I think, on the floor waxer, so that way that so the floor is still slippery, so the guy can't come and get you. But if you have an encounter, you can hit him with the axe. But it's like I just remember being like, there's like the axe makes a sucking sound as he removes it from his chest and then
Oh
finishes
gosh,
you off, and it's just like, ugh.
the writing, considering that they were,
Yeah.
even though it's all text, they were very
Mhm.
constrained, because there
Mhm.
were still memory constraints. Even if for a text adventure,
Sure.
their writing was just so good. Like I could still visualize all those worlds and
Oh yeah.
everything, even all
Mhm.
these years later. Of course,
And so, and
I did catch up. Like after I graduated university, I got a computer that could play all those old games, and I caught up.
Mhm.
And of course, I got really into those as well. So I have played Sierra and LucasArts, but I never really was like on either team growing up. I was on Team Infocom.
I mean, I'll, you know what? I'll say that you probably would have been more of a Sierra kid, because being killed in a video game was not a problem for you. It wasn't a deterrent.
True.
I know a lot of people, because that was kind of the after Maniac Mansion, and I think you can die also in Zach McCracken. But
I did play some of the Sierras at that time, like because like I said, the first 4 King's Quests could actually run on those, so I did play those, and I still remember the moment when I was playing King's Quest 1. I had borrowed it from a friend, and on a whim, I typed the word "jump," and Graham jumped. And it like blew my little mind. Like, oh my God, so responsive, and that's amazing. It knew, and that still was like a formative moment that I have been trying to like chase ever since.
I just got to add jump to all my games. So actually, now I got to go and play the Crimson Diamond and see if there's a jump command in there.
I didn't try that when I played it.
I know, I didn't even think to try it, because I've played the Colonel's Bequest and all of that, and you don't have to jump in those games, but maybe I'll have to try that. See if Julia put a secret jump command in the game. But you'd mentioned talking about kind of making your own sort of text-based adventure games using BASIC on your Apple II. Kind of as you developed your skills and got into other things, would you say sort of that inspiration to do the programming back then in kind of a more simplified way, is that what really just made you feel more confident about picking up the tools for writing some of these modern titles that you've worked on?
I mean, probably. Like it seems weird. Like when I think like, oh yeah, I did that. I like wrote basic programs, not programs that were basic, but programs using the basic language in notebooks and graph paper and stuff like that. Like on car trips, I would just do this stuff, and it seems weird now, but at the time I didn't think anything of it. It was just something I wanted to do. I'm like, I felt kind of moved to do it. And then later, like I just sort of I did do some programming. I took some programming classes in college, and I knew I could do it. I actually had around that time there was the text adventure language TADS was a thing. Text Adventure Development Studio, I think it was called. There was TADS and Inform. Inform seems to be the one that has stood the test of time, but I was a TADS guy, and I tried making a few games in TADS. Nothing ever stuck. Probably because I was in college and I was really busy doing college stuff. But then later on, I discovered Adventure Game Studio, and I saw some games made with it, and I thought, oh, maybe I can make something.
So you'd mentioned about writing some of these kind of text-based adventures using BASIC on your Apple II. Did those experiences and like the whole thing of like kind of writing your code down and stuff on notebooks and things like that inform you kind of as you moved into some of these more modern and sort of more expansive creative tools? So basically just did those early experiences inform you as you became a programmer later?
Back then, I think that the thing that prevented me from like really pursuing it, I was like 12 years old back then when I was younger. I was like 10 when I made those games on my Apple. And I think what prevented me from really pursuing it was that like I didn't have an audience. I just made these things and like showed my parents, but my mom's reaction was something like, I don't see why if you can't do this, you don't get straight A's in school, that kind of thing. It's like, you're smart enough to do this. Why can't you, why aren't you failing math or whatever? And so I think like just the fact that I didn't have an audience like really encouraging me. I shouldn't say that. My parents were always very encouraging, especially when I told them that I wanted to like try making these games for a living. They were extraordinarily supportive. I just want to get out there in case one of them is watching this later. But I think like having done that and then returning to it, nearly however many years later, and having an audience for it really is what was that push that I needed. Like if I make this thing, people are actually going to see it and I'll get that feedback. And that was really nice because I always loved writing, but the prospect of like, submitting, writing a book, submitting it to a publisher, doing all that, getting, all that seemed incredibly daunting. I've heard so many horror stories of people trying to be writers and what that involves. And, but when I put this game on the internet for free, I got like right away, I was getting feedback. People seemed to like it, or they had comments or whatever. And that was kind of the push. I don't know if like the work I did as a kid on my Apple like helped, but it certainly didn't hurt. I knew I was capable of making something.
Well, if nothing else, it's just kind of one of those things where I was one of those kids that would go to Radio Shack on the weekends and get the poorly photocopied programs, out of like the magazines and things like that they would have there.
Compute magazine, I had that.
Yeah, so you'd get like a really Z grade photocopy and take it home and type that stuff in, and you'd modify things and change stuff. And I think it lays a foundation for you just getting the concepts of how programming works and how to kind of build these stories, and realize so much has to go down on paper before anything hits the keyboard, just to make sure that you're not like painting yourself into a corner or whatever. I know that modern tools make it really easy to just kind of like, it's fine, we're just going to open another project and we'll go here and then we'll splice these things together. But it's I think that growing up in that era with limitations has made people better programmers, and it's made people better storytellers, because you have to be succinct. That's like one of those things, just by the nature of the limitations of the machines at the time.
Editing is a big part of writing. I know I had this I took a creative writing class in high school, and I was very proud that I would write like these really long stories. And then one day the teacher just said, all right, like for this next assignment, I want you to limit yourself to X number of pages. And I was really annoyed by that. At the time, I was really annoyed. I was really upset, because I was very proud of this. But I think years later, I began to understand why he asked me to do that, because there's nothing worse than characters that just drone on and on and on and on and on, especially in games. It's my biggest pet peeve now. Is just like, okay, get on with it. I get it. You've repeated yourself about 5 times. Can we move on?
Wrap it up, Hamlet. Come on.
Yeah. And I find myself looking at my own writing and streamlining it a lot as I go. And even like when I'm doing the voice recording, it's like, all right, yeah, that sounded long. Just hearing that made me fall asleep. Maybe I can edit this a little bit, and that kind of thing. So yeah, I think it definitely is a skill, especially with programming. It's interesting how the folks who are like programmers like in the 80s or early 90s, and then suddenly memory didn't become an issue anymore. And then the first phones came out, and all those programmers were brought back because they knew how to like work within really tight constraints. And then of course the phones got bigger memory, and that's not an issue anymore. And now nobody cares. Like, I don't care either. I don't know the first thing about how to like optimize things memory wise. But it's something that I know that people used to care about.
Yeah, it's just, again, the constraints of the time. It's it's why use it's one of the brevity is the soul of wit sort of things. It's the constraints of the time really did help people tell some short but very memorable stories, that's for sure.
I say that as a guy who tends to babble a lot. So forgive me, a very, very ADHD brain. So if I go off into the weeds, feel free to reel me back.
No, we're doing great. Speaking of kind of how tools have changed, what programming tools do you use these days to write your games?
Okay. Write or program?
Or program.
Well, I've been using AGS, Adventure Game Studio, since that first game in 2001. Yeah. I have not. There was one game I did for a publisher that was done in another system. That was Emerald City Confidential, but every other game I've personally worked on has always been done in AGS. And I've tried shifting to other systems. I tried Unity, I've tried other things, but excuse me, I always come back to AGS. There's something very powerful about a engine or tool set that knows exactly what you're trying to make and gives you the tools to make that specific thing.
Mhm.
And the games have gotten like more complicated and more, the scope's bigger and everything is it's not, they're not as simple as they used to be, but the core part of it, 2D point and click adventure game,
Mhm.
that's still the core of it, and that's what that engine can do really, really well.
Mhm.
And so I keep using it because it works and it's still being updated. It's old, but it's old in the way that like Excel is old, and we all still use Excel. It works fine. And I feel the same way about AGS. It works fine. Yeah, it's old, but it still works,
Yeah.
and the games still sell and everything. So I keep using it.
Yeah, I was going to say, as long as it continues to produce something that will run on modern machines, I don't see people moving away from it anytime soon.
Mhm.
It like Unity is a great sandbox to make like any
Not that it's
any type
bad.
of game.
I don't want to
I mean,
diss Unity or any of those systems.
no,
There are
no,
some
but
great games
sometimes
have been made with it.
there's one right tool for the job. And it sure seems like AGS fills the bill for a lot of the projects that have come out. Again, like in the
Mhm.
last decade, especially. Like
Yeah.
there seems to have been like a real kind of like, it's one of those things. People like adventure games in general. You kind of start at that peak, and then you kind of get down here right about the time that Quake came out, and then things kind of came back up again.
Mhm.
And you've got AGS over here like really opening doors for people that didn't know where to start.
I think that's where it started for sure. There would be no like commercial or indie adventure game scene
Mm-hmm.
without AGS. I
Oh
am
yeah.
positive,
Mm-hmm.
because that's where people were making games, especially in the like mid 2000s, the mid zeros. That was it. And like there was no other system that could really do it well. And there are other systems now. Unity has the system. There's others. There's oh my god, Godot apparently is good. And there's systems. There's plugins within Unity. There's whatchamacallit, Power Quest and Adventure Creator. Both are really good. There's some great games that have been made with both. The Drifter that just came out, that was made with Power Quest and Unity. But personally, I find Unity impenetrable because AGS is all I know. And I think for a lot of new programmers or developers who started with Unity, they can understand it a bit more because they know how Unity works. I personally don't. So I find it a lot. I have to like learn how Unity works before I can really get a handle on how these systems within Unity works.
Right.
And it's so much extra work for me. And I would rather spend the time actually making the thing than learning the tools to make the thing. So I probably
I
stick with
think that
AGS forever.
Oh yeah, no, I was just gonna say that I think that AGS is like one of those well-worn things where people have absolutely figured this system out start to finish. It's really easy to talk to people online and get assistance with the problems you're having. And I think that people have figured out like where those boundaries are and have like been able to push a little past, but still make something that's very, very stable, very, very compatible. And it's just they can focus on storytelling and getting that out rather than whiz bang. Whiz bang is great, don't get me wrong. I like watching a demo or some kind of like high end, very pretty cinematic thing, just like anybody else. But I'll take 10
You can do
Hobbs
whiz bang in
Barrow.
AGS. There's a lot you can do in AGS. Like often people don't realize that Old Skies was made in AGS because it's like it's got HD sized graphics. Well, like, oh, you left AGS. Like, no, it's still AGS. It's just it's a lot easier to do those things in another system that already like a system like Unity. Again, a guy who doesn't really know Unity very well, so people forgive me if I get this wrong, has a lot of systems in place to make cinematics a little easier. AGS does not have that. So the whiz bang is harder to do in AGS, while the simpler things are harder for me to do in Unity. So I tend to stick with AGS because I can do the basic things a lot easier than I could in another system. And getting that basic stuff, knowing that basic stuff, being able to do the basic stuff is important to me because I just kind of want to make, I just want to create it, get it prototyped, get it playable, and AGS does that for me.
Well, it's good, and I'm glad that folks have stuck with it because again, it's one of those things where you've got this big support community that just lets you get on with getting your game out.
That support community is also, amazing because the issue I had with using another system like Unity, something went wrong. I couldn't figure out what was wrong. It could be anything. You have an error in Unity. It could be something. It's not something specific to the adventure game tool. It could be something to do with Unity, and who the hell knows what that is. Yeah. Unity is so big, but with AGS, it's very, it's designed to do this one specific thing, and so usually you can get the help you need. Someone can track it down, and that community help, that support, has been a lifesaver so many times.
Plus, I don't want to get caught up in the whole licensing thing of Unity.
There's that too.
And how that could just change at any point in the future and make your game basically unavailable just because of just the way that it's written.
Ooh, yeah, there's that too.
Yeah, and that's happened to some people where you just don't want to, you can't keep up with the licensing, or you can't keep up with just kind of the changing rules on that stuff, and people will just take things down rather than leave it up and potentially be out of compliance. So I'm not trash talking them. There's been some amazing projects on that platform, but I really like AGS. I think there's been some amazing games that have come out, and I don't think that we would have seen as many smaller stories that made it without it.
I agree. Yeah.
But you're getting ready to celebrate kind of a pretty important anniversary with your company. When did Wadjet Eye kind of officially come into being?
We started in 2006, so we're coming up on 20 years. It's getting close. Not there yet. Still 19. But yeah, it's wild how next year it'll be 20 years. And at the time, back in 2006, I didn't expect to last 20 weeks, let alone 20 years. But here I am, just kept doing it, and just, I really don't know what to say about that. It's just wild.
I congratulations on your success, because
thank you.
There's a lot of people that will absolutely say like, oh, it's survivor bias or something, all these just make things and the right people will find it. I'm a big believer in that, because if something is a million seller, that's great. Don't get me wrong. But if you've got something inside you that something you've got to get out, a story you've got to get out, a project you got to get out, just get that thing out, and the right people will latch on to whatever that thing is. So, but don't undersell it. This is a big achievement to make it 20 years.
To be fair, I am very proud that I've managed to last this long. It's more like, and I think 20 years, that number just seems so huge. It's like it's too big to get my brain around. It's like having to acknowledge that it's been 20 years is like, trying to wrap my head around the inevitable passage of time. Like, oh my God, 20 years. It is a big achievement. I didn't mean to undersell it.
Oh no, I'm joking.
I'm very proud of it. Not just like the games that I've made, but the games that I've published or had a hand in. I've met so many amazing people over 20 years, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. It hasn't been easy. But it's just been a life that I never envisioned I would have when I was a kid, playing these games growing up, or in college or whatever. And the fact that I'm not just, earning my living, been able to sustain us like a family on this stuff for so long. I'm still gobsmacked by it. No one's more surprised or as grateful as I am. But yeah, there's a lot of luck that played a part. But yeah, and any decision I made was mostly due to me making the right decision out of luck, not out of any intelligence. So I count myself extremely lucky, and I'm very grateful that I've lasted this long.
it's Wadjet Eye and yourself. It's you've had involvement with like so many other games, just of other publishers and other people that have written their project, trying to get the thing out. I mean, I had no idea, but I mean, you've got a special thanks in Undertale of all
I
things.
did?
That little tiny game that no one's ever heard of.
I had no idea. Really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yeah.
I have no idea why or how, but that's
don't
cool.
worry. You rubbed the right elbow at some
I have
point.
no idea.
Don't worry. No one's heard of that game. I don't even know why I brought it up.
No one's heard of that. That little dinky game that no one's ever heard of.
I mean,
I had no
nobody's
idea.
played the
Really?
lead song for that in front of the Pope.
What?
No, it's
Okay, I'm going to look this up later because I had no idea. That's wild.
Yeah.
Okay. Then not right now.
No, it's okay. Yeah.
No, I'll look it up later. It's okay. I believe you. I won't look it up now.
But it's just kind of one of those things where it's you get out there and you spend some time in the industry and you won't believe the people you bump into and work with and all of that. So, but again, you've helped so many other people realize their dream in getting that game across the line, getting it published, getting it out there, using the connections that you've built across decades in the game industry. But when you're doing your projects for yourself, when you're writing like the idea for a story, something like a story you've got to get out there, what inspires you? Like, because there's a lot of people that are big readers that are like, you know, they'll reread like a classic or something and be like, you know, like a what if version of that, or they'll say like something where it's like, here's something my family, this very personal sort of thing. I know that there's people that use the writing in their games as a way to work through grief. Kind of famously, there's that Dragon Cancer, where it's just sort of, you know, just try to dealing with the grief of loss. What do you draw on when you're writing a story?
That's a very good question. And often I don't realize what it is until later, until I'm either midway through writing it or almost finished, or even after I finished it. I think like I do feel like that anyone is moved to create for a reason. You know, there is a reason why you are driven to make something, and often you might not realize what it is or what that reason is until later. And when you can figure that out, like I'm making it because I want to say this, or this is my theme, or this is, you know, whatever, then that's like a really good way to really make it even better. Because I know with Blackwell, often people say that it wasn't until the fourth game where like that's where it really seemed to find its voice, and that's not a coincidence, because I realized at that point, like, oh, this game's about urban isolation, isn't it? That's what this is about. And I wrote it, or at least I conceived of it, at a time when I was pretty new to New York and new to the city and new to all that, and a lot of those feelings were kind of coming across in Blackwell. And so when I managed to reconcile that, I could really kind of drill down into what this meant, and I really could bring that out more. And it was also extremely cathartic. You know, I was able to like bring that out, and often it could just be something as simple as that. With Old Skies, I do know that a lot of the themes center around legacy and like what it means to, you know, like the whole idea of what you are leaving behind. And here you have characters that like want to change that. You know, I can't let that be my legacy. I need to change it. Or, you know, I need my life to mean something else. Or, you know, something like that. Each of the stories on Old Skies plays with that idea in different ways. And a lot of that was weirdly inspired by lockdown. You know, I came up with I designed a lot of that during lockdown. It's a very nihilistic game as a result. I don't know if you played it, but a lot of the themes are about like, well, what if you don't have a legacy? Is that okay? Like, what if you don't have one? You know, is the pursuit of that ultimately meaningless, or is that something that you should strive for? And not everyone gets to have it. So what do you do instead? That kind of, a lot of these little random questions that I was playing with that I kind of let myself explore through the medium of this game. And it's not like I came up with any profound answers, but like just being able to do that was extremely cathartic for me. And that is why I'm kind of driven to make these games. So yeah, like I never know exactly where ideas come from, but I'm always grateful that they do. And there's always a reason why I want to make something. I might not know what it is, but when I feel it, when I know it, when I feel that overwhelming just urge, like I gotta make this, then I know that I've got something. And so I usually chase that and see where it goes. It's a little esoteric, it's a little out there, but that's always how I've worked, and it seems to have steered me well so far.
Oh yeah, my inspiration is typically something where I'll ruminate on something, or I'm thinking about something, or a lot of times something's bothering me, and it's a way, it's kind of like a little bit of therapy to go through and write and make whatever that is what I want it to be.
Yeah,
instead of what it really is.
Yeah, there's that too. Yeah. Everyone creates for different reasons.
They do. But I'm glad that they do it. It's I think there's a lot of people that are worried that because we're our own worst critics. I think that there are people that are worried that it's like I write this thing and it's no good, and it's like, but it's better every time. It's more gooder every time you write it. You write it, you rewrite it, you think about things, your story grows. And at the end, hopefully you end up with something that you're happy with.
Yeah, it's always a crapshoot. There's always this feeling, because especially with a game, and especially as a mostly solo dev, I work with some other people, but in terms of majority of the writing, designing, programming, I'm mostly alone. And if it takes a long time, you will hate it. Like I always say, when I started, I have a lot of love for it, but that is a resource that can diminish, and you need to replenish it, or finish it before that supply runs out, because you will hate it. You will begin to hate it, and you will be convinced that everyone else will hate it too.
Yeah.
But that's also inevitable. If you think of like your favorite movie of all time. If you were stuck in your room watching it on repeat over and over and over again for weeks, months, years, you will hate that movie. And that is what creating is like. You have this in your head all the time for so long, you will start to hate it. And you will, you think, well, God, this is terrible. I hate this. Everyone else is going to hate it too. And often I feel that like the trick is to finish the thing before your brain can really tell you this is terrible. Yeah. But there's ways there are ways to work through it. Number one, like I always try to get other people to play it and get feedback, just to make sure, like, all right, this is actually good, and that's also very important.
Oh yeah. It's kind of one of those things. It's no project is ever really finished. It's just abandoned. And you have to realize that there is a point where you can navel gaze to the point where, to the detriment of whatever this thing is that you're working on. Don't worry. You can always do a special edition. You can always do a sequel. You can always do a what if Elseworld sort of retake on the story later in another way. Because I think some of the best games, some of the best media that we've had in maybe the last 50 years are things that have like taken just that little kernel of an idea from something else and just said, you know what, here's my interpretation of these things. Or, I mean, how many adaptations of Frankenstein have we had? How many adaptations of all of these sort of Regency era dramas have we seen? That aren't necessarily Jane Eyre, that aren't necessarily,
right.
Rich people going over to other people's houses and talking to one another. It's a huge genre, and it's got no end. People will love it forever. So people
still make Sherlock Holmes games.
I know. It's that Jeremy Brett. What a guy. But no, I actually
love Jeremy Brett Sherlock Holmes.
Oh my gosh, you have no idea. I love it. So great. I actually just went through earlier this year and reread the whole of the Sherlock Holmes, like even the ones that you can tell that that Arthur Conan Doyle just hated writing these, where he's just like, you know what? I'm just killing off Watson's wife. Spoiler alert.
Well, it's just really funny. I've been reading them to my daughter, weirdly enough, and she loves Sherlock Holmes, and there's just some stories where it's like they meet, like they meet. The mystery is solved very early, and then like the guy says, "Okay, here's a story of what happened like 30 years ago," and it's like 20 pages of this completely other story. It's like, yeah, Doyle really wanted to write this story, but had to wrap it in a Sherlock,
it's
framework, and yeah.
I can't remember the one, but it's about the three men, and they're serving in India, and they steal like a gem or something, and it's so it's like 50% of the story is just like, I hope you like exposition, because buckle up.
There's a really funny. I used to read the Oz books as a kid, and I've been a number of years ago. I read those to my daughter as well. And there's some of them where it's just like, yeah, it's a complete other story, complete other random characters. Just it's just but it's still a fantasy story, and like they just happen to, like, the last 5 pages they end up in Oz.
Yeah,
they're just there, but it was a completely other story to start with.
Yeah, I wanted to sell something, but no one will buy anything else. They want more Oz stuff. So here's a story about the guy that planted the orchard, that one day the tree was chopped down and became the sawhorse. Here we go. So, yeah, I just recently reread The Wizard of Oz, and the great intro in there, where it's like, all of these Grimm's fairy tales are so scary, and they're so morality tales and all of this. So here's my story about how a guy chops himself up, and how politicians are dumb. It's like, okay,
yeah,
that sounds fine.
I'm sure everyone's fascinated to hear. Like, I could talk about Oz forever. I don't know if like anyone else is interested in that.
Welcome to the Ozcast.
There's a reason why I made Emerald City Confidential, because I used to love those books as a kid.
Oh, I still do. I loved all those books. I read Patchwork Girl of Oz. I'm deep in the lore here. So, but back to just talking about
to me.
I know you. Frank Baum he's had his day in the sun.
Old news.
Yeah, gosh. What's he done lately?
I know, man. Yeah.
But talking about writing and things like that, and you get something on the page, and it's written, but with modern games and the expectations of audiences, things like that it's that you need not just somebody that's going to read the words, but you need someone who is going to feel and emote and bring those characters to life. So what considerations do you make when casting voice talent for your projects?
Oh, okay. Again, a warning. I could talk about voiceover and voice actors forever. So feel free to reel me back, because
I just had Dominic Armato on last week, and we talked. It was supposed to be about like Monkey Island, and it was 45 minutes of talking about voice acting.
Well, he's a voice actor, so that. No, he's great. No, he's great. I met him last year at the Adventure Game Fanfare in Tacoma.
Can't wait till next year.
He took us out to dinner. Just an absolute, sweetest guy. Exactly, what you'd expect from the guy playing Guybrush. Like, just a wonderful man.
Yeah.
But yeah. So yeah, is there anything specific? I could just.
No, it's just like what your process is, and how you cast, and what you're looking for in performances, because it's really easy to get somebody. Because I've had some friends that make games and stuff, and they have people read, and it's just like they're reading what's on the page. It's a very flat sort of experience, but it's when you're casting, and when you're performing yourself and things like that, like just the process.
Okay. Well, when the first game I always say Blackwell Legacy was my first, at least commercial game, but in reality, it's the first game that I intended to sell commercially. There was another game I wrote earlier that year in 2006 called the Shivah, which originally I released for free. But then when I decided, well, I really want to do this for a living. Why don't I try selling this game? I'd already released it for free. Like maybe I'll add some voice acting and commentary, improve the graphics here and there, and get the music updated, and then sell that. And so, because I figured, well, why would people pay for something that I just released for free? And like the voice acting was the number one thing I felt could add something. And at the time, I knew nothing about voice acting, the process or whatever. I had a headset mic that I bought for $20 at Radio Shack and a copy of Audacity on my laptop. And I was part of an improv group called Quick Thinking Improv. And so I just invited, and I was good friends with Abe Goldfarb, who I had known since, gosh, we were like 13, 14 years old. We went to summer camp together. And I knew like I would want him to be the main character in the game. And so I just brought in people from the improv group. Unfortunately, they're all like really good actors. I mean, living in New York, they're not hard to find.
Actors in New York, what?
I know.
Yeah.
And they did an amazing job. Unfortunately, I knew nothing about, levels. There were some characters that were like, I had them up, they had really deep voices and I didn't adjust the levels, and breath pops, I didn't know what that meant. So you get a lot of breaths in the dialogue, whatever. And so like, but through them, because some of them actually did voice acting, and I learned, professionally, or at least they did it on the side. And I learned so much from them because there were just a lot of things I'd never considered, I would watch how they would like arrange their body and things like that. And there was one actress who would like, take a breath in certain places. And I just had to ask her, I'm like, why are you breathing that way? And she says, oh, she's conserving energy for certain moments. And I'm like, that's fascinating. And I became really, really fascinated just by the technique of voice acting. And as time went on, and I've worked with more actors, and I was introduced to more actors and so on, I just fell in love with the process. It just became friggin' magic to me. And I meet a voice actor, I will talk their ear off because I just find it absolutely fascinating. Just seeing someone take something I wrote and not just making it come alive, but making it come alive in ways that I didn't expect. Kind of really, what's the word I'm looking for? Enhancing, making it better, taking it from good to great, and making choices that I would not have expected. Like, oh, I guess that character would say it that way. And that's really interesting. Like when an actor really gets into a character and they make suggestions on how things are said, and I love it, that's stuff like that. Like, I just blows my mind. Like, I just live for those moments, it's just magical. And it's my favorite thing to do, working with actors. And some the voice actors I've worked with, most of them have become dear, dear friends, that I've known for, God knows how many long years. And I just love it. I find it just really rewarding. Working with the voice actors, I feel, is always my reward for getting a project up to that point. And sometimes I will publish a game just because I really want to handle the voice acting. And that was Hobbs Barrow. Mostly because I knew all these British voice actors and I really wanted to work with them. And I'm like, I think this game could really use voice acting. And I did. And it's just worked out really well. The actors that I have found, that I've auditioned and then I've cast and things like that, have just been amazing. And it was always very rewarding to see some of the actors I've worked with go on to do incredible things. Seeing Sam Béart, who played Thomasina Bateman in House Barrow, go on to do Karlach in Baldur's Gate, still makes me so ridiculously happy. Like, I knew I saw something in you. This is great. Like, I knew it. This is awesome. Stuff like that. That just makes me so happy. Just seeing I just love it. I can't really go into any more detail than that.
Oh no, I think the voice acting in Hobbs Barrow is amazing. That's
I
one of my
agree.
favorite. That's one of my favorite games of the last few years, and
Oh, thank you so much. I
I'm
can't
serious.
take credit for the writing. That's all.
Well,
Yeah.
it's still it's a feast, the entire thing, and I like I like the story, and I like the fact that it does encourage multiple playthroughs. I like I was saying earlier, I'm a big Lovecraftian kind of
Mm.
person. I know not everybody would characterize the game as that, but it's a mystery, that's for sure, and it's got some very supernatural elements, that's for sure,
Just a few.
but just a few. But no, it's the entirety of the game is a lot of fun, and I've probably played through it 4 times at this
Oh,
point.
wow. Thank you.
Yeah, just because it's sort of one of those things where it's like you kind of miss things the first time, and I'm one of those people that it's like I have to kind of speed run through the first time to stay interested, because I'm one of those people that wants to exhaust every dialogue option, and that's
Mm.
fine, but there's a story we're trying to tell here that maybe you don't want to get into like every possible thing, it's
There's a
like
lot in that game that goes on under the hood that isn't obvious from the first playthrough. And
Mhm.
even as the game's publisher, there's a lot there. And it's I'm very grateful to have published it. Like all the games that I've published, like I often say, like they're all really good. They're all really good games, and they would have been fine without my involvement. Or if they went to another publisher, they would have done fine. They would have been fine, But I'm still glad it was me. I'm still glad it was they went with me, and I was the
Mhm.
one to help get it there. It would have been fine without me. I'm not going to say these games would be nothing without me. Totally not true. But I'm still glad that it was me. I'm so glad it was Wadjet Eye. It makes me very, very proud to like see all these games together and be like, yeah, like these are all like part of a little mini like community and not universe exactly, but it's just nice seeing all these together and knowing that I helped get them there. At least like I said, it could have been anyone, but I'm really grateful it was me. I'll
Yeah.
always be grateful for that.
Oh, yeah. Well, it definitely, a lot of these projects, again, are very story focused. They're very character focused, and I think that, especially like again, Hobbs Barrow has got a great story to tell, and it
Mm.
just you come in as that outsider, and you're learning about yourself though, and you're learning about
Mm.
your family, and you're learning about this community, and trying to solve this sort of this mystery, but at the same time, uh, it completely changes everything.
What attracts me to games like that, often the games I publish, like Hobbs Barrow or Primordia or Gemini
Mhm.
Rue or um, Technobabylon, like any of the games that I publish. I'm leaving out so many because there are so friggin' many of them.
There's a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot. What usually will attract me to them is that it's stuff that I like, but also it's something that I probably could never come up with on my own. I could never write like a folk horror story set in Victorian England. It's just not in my wheelhouse. It's not something I probably, even if I did a lot of research to get there, I don't know if I would have the same connection to it that the developers that Sean and John did. Um, I just don't have that same connection. Like they have a different brain than me, and it's just not something that I personally would ever be able to make. And so being able to be a part of that is just really nice. And I often find it's worked. The business model has worked really well because often when I work on my own project for several years, I'm burnt out and I'm tired. But at the same time, it's like still a business. Like I need to get stuff out, and that can't happen. Like the stuff still needs to happen, even though I'm tired. So it's nice to kind of take a more management role or producer role and help someone else get their project out. Because I have a bit of distance, it's not my soul and brain on the line. It's not my creative baby. It's someone else's, and so I have that bit of distance, and it's nice to be able to like help someone else, a few other projects get out there, and then after a few years of that, I revert and think, well, enough helping other people with their vision. Now it's time to work on mine. And it's nice having the best of both worlds, kind of exercising both parts of the brain, and also learning a lot from these developers. Like I've learned so much. Like what works, what doesn't work. What's what, that kind of stuff. And I'm surprised every single time. I'm always surprised.
You and this is a great intro for the next question I was going to ask.
There we go.
Was about producing games for other designers and how you go about identifying.
I wish I could say I planned that segue, but
no, that's really great, because it's like, how do these projects speak to you, or how do you identify projects you want to work on, and do you think that there is a through line in all of these titles that you've worked on over the years?
That's a good question. I know that an issue that I faced is that a lot of folks will think that like one of the games that have been published under Wadjet Eye was written or developed by me in Wadjet Eye, and I always feel bad about that. But I think the reason why is because they're all done by different teams and different artists, but they all kind of fall under the same category of like, Dave likes this. Mm-hmm. And maybe that means they've got like some kind of something in common. I don't know. It's got this intangible something, but it's like, I will often like do my best to try to correct those misconceptions. Sometimes it's just not possible. But it does happen. But I do think that like, there's just no rhyme or reason, because often it depends if I'm between projects, if something hits me just the right moment. If I've got too much going on, I might love something, but I'm just too busy and I feel terrible. Kathy Rain was like that. They approached me first, and then I was too busy. They went to Raw Fury, and it ended up being this huge success. So, my loss. But you just never know. It really depends on like how busy I am and what my own personal investment will be. Because at the end of the day, Wadjet Eye, at least like in terms of like the management business end, is just me. It's nobody else, just me. And so I've learned, especially as I'm getting a bit older, I've got to practice a lot more self-care and manage my time wisely and not burn myself out, because I have burnt myself out before and it sucks. And I have, especially after Old Skies came out, and you've had a front row seat to this. I have turned into the biggest flake. Last week I completely, we were originally supposed to record this last week, and I just completely flaked on it, and I apologize for that. So that is some news for everyone listening.
It's life, and you get busy.
Yeah.
And I completely understand. Again, I just appreciate you taking it.
Also, I was burnt out from Old Skies. It's been 4 months, but I'm still like in recovery mode. Mm-hmm. And that is just the thing that no one talks about, is not just when you getting a game to launch, but what happens afterward, because it does a number on you, because you build this up, especially for a project that took this long. You build it up in your head, and anything less than like a brass band and a ticker tape parade and a choir of angels singing your praises is a disappointment. And when you don't get that, and of course it's never going to be enough, there's this like, I hate using this term, but there's this postpartum this depression that sits in, and no one talks about that part of it. And so sometimes, like, some folks came to me with games after Old Skies came out, and I'm like, you know what? I just really can't. I've got, I just don't have the spoons. I don't have the mental space.
Yeah.
And
I'm
then when I'm like recovered and something comes my way, I'd be like, yeah, let's do it. Let's go. This is great. Can't wait to work on this. And it just no rhyme or reason. So anyone hoping to like pitch stuff to me, they just have to catch me at the right time. Sure. I'm not a professional company. I wish I was.
Well, but you're 100% right. It's sort of one of those things, because it's the exact same feeling that people get after any sort of high, where it's like, I finished school, or I got the promotion and now what, or I went to Dragon Con or whatever, and I've been looking forward to it for months, and then now that experience is over and you're
Life
kind of
continues.
left, you're left down in that valley for a little bit. So I completely understand, and it's natural, and it's something you kind of work through. You find new things to inspire you, and then you start chasing those again, and it starts all over.
Oh, I know I know you'll get. You gotta have faith you'll get your groove back eventually. And I always do, and I always have. But in the meantime, I'm focused on family, trying to be outside. I really got into gardening. I have a garden now, which is weird because I've been like a city guy for most of my life, but now I've got a flower bed, I've got a rose bush, and I love it, and it's great.
Well, and again, it's people say touch grass all the time online, and there's a real reason. There's some truth to that. It's get out, connect with nature, and especially get out of yourself, and kind of like look at how big and beautiful the world is, and then find inspiration in that. I know not everybody's an outside guy, and all that. I completely understand, but I love camping, and I like hiking, and I like nature, and I'm one of those people that will just go out in the woods and just kind of like just admire just how beautiful things are. So I completely understand needing a break from everything, especially technology these days.
Oh yeah, especially since like game development as an indie is very solitary. It can be so solitary. It can really, make you go a little strange if you don't talk to other people. Outside of your, outside of your immediate family. Just it's so important. Something that I don't always do, but that's the reason why I like going to events and meeting other developers, so I can like talk shop with other people, and it's great. It's so rejuvenating.
Yeah. I like going to vintage computer shows and things like that, because you can always connect with somebody, and more than anything else, you can meet other people and find out what they're excited about. Because somebody is always it's just like, oh, you won't believe this thing. I did all this research and I found out about this old piece of equipment, and I've got one here, and you need to look at it. And it's this rare and obscure thing that they sold like 1,000 machines or something 30-40 years ago, and you have connected with the person that has this encyclopedic knowledge about whatever that is, and they can't wait to do a brain dump on you.
That's so cool. Oh man, that's really cool.
Yeah. So I love that energy, and I love that excitement, and hearing about what passions other people have. So,
and after you've done this for a long time, because I think back to when I started, and I was so prolific, man. Like I would work with ludicrous hours. I would get stuff out so quickly, and that is not the case anymore. But that, of course, it's 20 years later. I don't have that same, not just not the same energy, but just not the same, like wide-eyed, just enthusiasm for the work that I did. I still enjoy it. I still love it, but it's not like, oh my God, this is so cool, I'm making games. I don't have that anymore. And so it's nice to go meet other people who do have that, and kind of feed off that energy like a vampire.
But don't worry, they need you too, as the seasoned hand, because you've got the decades of experience where they don't. They've got the passion, but you've got the experience. Let's go with that. And that is the goobers of like the jelly and the peanut butter in one jar. That's what makes things work and continue. Terrible analogy, but it's true. It's you've got to have those people together, because I mean, look at like Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak. It's if you would have just put Steve Wozniak out there trying to sell a computer, it would not have worked, because Wozniak's an engineer. He loves the hardware and all that type of stuff. He's got a passion for all of that, and that's amazing. But you needed the used car salesman to actually sell that and make this big company.
I guess I'm both. I do both.
I'm not calling you a used car salesman, but I am saying that you had to have somebody that's got the other skills that complement kind of that passion and that drive and things like that. So I think that everybody starts as one, and you kind of evolve and grow into the other. You always keep the elements of that, because that's how you can appreciate those things. But at the same time, you have to be able to and you mentor and you help those people, and that's just as important. So
Yeah, yeah. This got this. We got it into the weeds for a bit, but we managed to
Yeah.
come back very,
No,
very,
don't
very
don't
deftly.
worry. It's we get
I'm
we're
very
gonna find a
impressed.
trailhead eventually. Wait a
There we
minute.
go. There
There
we
we
go.
go. Okay, got it.
Mhm.
But as part of that, and like producing games and stuff for other people, and identifying projects and things like that that you like, um, do you what could you share about like the marketing and how promotion works, and just getting it in front of people?
Oh
Because
boy, yeah.
notoriously this used to be like an impossible thing to do. You were literally putting your game on a floppy disk inside of a sandwich bag
Oh
and
man.
mail order and things. But now we've got all these digital distribution platforms, and Steam and GOG and all of that. But
It's gosh, yeah. This is always a difficult question for me to answer because I the way it was done 20 years ago was so different than the way it's done now.
Mhm.
And it's funny when I talk about like, oh, this is how it was when I first started. But then you talk to folks like Jeff Vogel or folks who were doing it like in the 90s when it was still shareware. Yeah, they put the discs into bags and brought them to shops. Like, I'm glad I never had to do that. But I was kind of what inspired me to like actually take the plunge or make me realize I can do it. There was this game that no one knows about. And those that do, it was reviewed in a few places and it got dismal scores, though I liked it. It was called Zero Critical. And it was made by a guy named Istvan Paley, something like that, who later on went to become one of the art directors at Bethesda. So he did pretty well for himself. But he made this game in Macromedia Director before it was bought by Adobe,
Mhm.
And I remember seeing it in the shops. And I remember I only noticed it because it was available for Mac. And I had a Mac at the time. And it was one of the few adventure games that you could get on a Mac. And I played it. And like, yeah, it's okay. This is fun. But I was really impressed that there was this basically a one-man operation managed to get his game in boxes in shops.
Mhm.
And so flash forward, however many years later, when I was thinking, could I do this? Could I actually make a go of this? I remembered him and thinking, if he managed to do that like in the 90s, I should be able to do it now with all of these like tools at my disposal. And keep in mind, this was before Steam, this is before GOG, this is before a lot of online distribution. I managed to get like my brother-in-law set up the system that allowed people to like buy things with their credit card.
Mhm.
But like it was really, really hard. And then eventually I found a system that let people like buy it through PayPal. But back then, the only thing I could do, because like it was completely different then, because I don't even think we were calling it indie then. I don't even think that term like was being used. I think this was just as like even just before like Braid came out, and
Mhm.
I think World of Goo might have just come out. I'm not sure.
Mhm.
This was like early days, at least in terms of indie stuff. And the main thing all I could do, because no one was taking these games seriously, and I would contact like every blogger, every YouTuber. I don't even think they were called YouTubers then, but they had like, if you might have did a review of any indie game on YouTube and I saw it, you'd get a letter from me like, hey, you want a copy of this game? Maybe you'd want to review it. I don't know. And so like anyone, you could like be some little dinky blogger somewhere on, Tripod or, whatever it was back then. And, GeoCities, and I would contact you and give you a copy. I just wanted like, to at least be able to pull quotes and say, look at all these people who reviewed my game.
Mhm.
And eventually just by pure, and like I would take, once that reached a critical mass, I could take that and be like, go to a bigger website and be like, hey, we've gotten all this attention. Maybe you want to take a look at it and that kind of thing. So it was just but it was so slow. It was this really slow slog. Like my first game did not sell that great. I fortunately was a single guy living alone in a cheap apartment, very little expenses. Admittedly, I was living in the East Village of New York City, but for the most part, I didn't have many expenses. and I managed to earn just enough to keep going. Like, it was not easy. But then, I gained a little bit of attention through the game. I got a little bit of a fan base, and then I managed to last long enough to release another game. And all of the people who liked my first one, most of them came back, and I was able to build on that, and then so on and so forth. It was just a very gradual thing.
Sure.
But I don't think it works that way now. I don't think you could do it that way now, because number one, there are so many indie games that a lot of even some like dinky website is spoiled for choice. They have so many games that they can play, and so it's less about indies being taken seriously and getting someone to notice you. It's just getting noticed is so much harder now, and just because I laid all that groundwork down for like 20 years, it's a little easier for me now than it would be for someone just starting.
Sure.
I mean, all that work I put in wasn't nothing. That was a lot of work, took a lot of time, and I'm reaping the benefits of that now. But whenever I'm asked, oh, so how do you get your start in marketing? Or how do you get noticed? It's like, hell if I know. It's so different now. And I don't know what to say. Like, it's just the truth. I don't know. Things are just so ridiculously different. Like, I feel like I'm yelling into a void. Like, even with all that groundwork laid and all the fan base that I have already, and like the folks who have played our stuff before, like, I know they're out there. It's just now, how do I reach them? There's no real central way to reach them anymore, because social media is kind of imploding, and this is a big downer. It's harder, not impossible. It's just harder, but it's always harder. It always constantly changes.
Right.
I will say that, like, every time I think I've nailed it, every time I think, oh, I've cracked the code, this is how I sell my games now, everything changes, and I have to reevaluate how I do everything. And so that's just the way it is. You just got to be flexible, and just cross your fingers. I think, like, working on jam games is a great way to get noticed now, because there's really no other way to like find other people to work with,
right?
And like, I think working in a jam game gives you that feeling of like working with other people, teaches you how, and also like, people within the jam community will get to know you, and then from there you can parlay that. I'm just guessing. I don't know.
Well, but you're 100% right. Though.
I know that I've spoken
connection.
It's
connection and finding community, and then leveraging that community for like the promotion and for support. And because, I mean, again, like when all the lead up on Old Skies, that was how I learned about it, was through these adventure game communities and such, where people were absolutely just like, have you seen any of the previs? Have you seen any of the? And it's like, no. And you go out.
Also, being willing to go on any podcast that'll have me. Like, anyone wants to interview me, I'll be like, yeah.
You're here. All right.
It's like, you're in a dingy basement in your parents' house, I will go on your podcast. I don't care. I'm 100%. happy to talk to anybody. And I think that is also part of it. Like, you can't hold yourself back. Be shameless. Yeah. Like, it's so hard. Just any edge you can get. Just
Be shameless in your self promotion, and don't be afraid to put yourself out there. I think a lot of people hide their gifts under a bush, and are just not like,
they're worried about being annoying, or they're worried about being, it's too much. Am I being, just for. Like, I will promote myself like during sales. Like, I will send out a tweet or Bluesky skeet. What are they called? I don't know. Every 2 hours something goes out, because like, and even still, even after like a week of sending something out every 2 hours, there'll still be people who are like, oh, I didn't know this game was on sale, and we're like, you just, because there's so much noise out there. There's so much.
I think that's a good thing about Bluesky, is it definitely cuts through that, because there's no algorithm. So no algorithm means if I want to see what David Gilbert's up to, all I have to do is subscribe to you, and it will be in my feed. I'm not fighting something else that's trying to prioritize somebody that's sliding the money under the table.
And that's exhausting. It's like trying to work the algorithm and figure it out. Oh my God, it was so exhausting. I gave up. I'm like, whatever. I'll just post about it and cross my fingers, see what happens, because it's exhausting.
Try to just get it picked up by other people and get those people to re-share those things, and then eventually, hopefully, it hits the right person. But Mastodon's really great. Bluesky's really great for those things.
I've never
Everything
been
else
able to make that much traction on Mastodon. I tried, but Blue Sky seems to be working. And if anything that the Twitter implosion taught me is that, like I said, you had to be flexible. You know, things are always changing. But Twitter became the most efficient and cost-effective way to do promotion for a very long time. And I always thought, one day, you know, this isn't going to be the thing anymore. I thought eventually there'll be something else. I didn't expect that it would be like willfully dismantled from within, but we don't need to go there. But if anything, it did teach me that I can't rely on one thing anymore.
Yes, you can't put all your eggs in one basket, especially when that basket is owned by a guy who bought it so you could read his ex-girlfriend's private messages. I don't know
to get into that,
true.
but yeah.
I don't know that that's true.
But it was definitely like the priorities of the platform changed. Like it was not good for promotion, or at least not good for promoting my kind of stuff. And but at that point I had relied on it so heavily for so long. I kind of went into panic mode. I wasn't sure what to do. And Blue Sky is filling that gap a little nicer. It's filling the gap. But it's still, I don't want to get into that habit of relying on one thing, because that was always my marketing plan. Oh, Twitter. Like post.
You could rely on that for a long time.
And it worked.
And
it worked. That's why I kept doing it. Yeah.
But I think that Blue Sky really benefits from the fact of that it's Mastodon with better promotion. So they did because I know a lot of people that are still on Mastodon. I still have a Mastodon account. And I post over there. I don't get the same traction that I get on Blue Sky, just because of just the nature of kind of the audience there. There's a lot of people that went to Mastodon that were people like me, the technology people that were a little more juiced in on kind of those niche communities. Blue Sky is just sort of like, hey, you remember how things were fun at the old place and now they're not so fun? Come here to the new place and let's have fun again.
That is what I like about it. I think with Mastodon, it's more industry people. And that's like, I like talking to industry people, but I'm more interested in talking to the fans. And that's where I need to go. And so, I mean, I still have a presence on Twitter because a lot of them are still on Twitter. It's just what you got to do. But mostly I'm on Blue Sky now. And it's worked, but at the same time, like, and I tried going to TikTok. There was this brief period of time where I'm like, I'll post on TikTok, but that whole ecosystem is so above my head. I did not go very far with it. I did Twitch sometimes, but it's like with basically but I guess what you got to do is you got to find what works and stick with it and push that. Like the posting on Blue Sky works, so that's where I focus energy. But there is a danger there that I am not heeding, because Blue Sky might implode as well, and then where will I be? So I need to be aware of that. That's not something I've figured out yet.
Well, at least we're at the point where it's not changing every week.
No,
where there was a new, you got to go to Threads. Oh, you got to go to Google Circles. Oh, you got to try this other thing that Facebook is trying.
I rely on word of mouth. I mean, what I've always done is relying on word of mouth. I have never had a marketing budget. I've never I've talked to marketing firms occasionally, but the ones I can afford are just most of what they could offer are things that I do already. And so I wouldn't, that there's not a lot of value in that. So I can't really afford advertising or anything like that. So but it's worked so far. I mean, who knows, maybe I would be even more successful if I was better at that. But you know, you could drive yourself crazy if you think, oh, I could be better. Maybe I would be much more successful if I did X. I should have done X. Like it'll drive you nuts. That will drive you nuts. All I can think of is like, you know, I like where I am. I want to maintain this for as long as I can, because I love it. I love it. I wouldn't change it for anything.
So, but you heard it here first, folks. If you're on Blue Sky, you've got to make sure that you get over there and get subscribed. It's Wadjet Eye Games.
Yes. Gadget with a J, not a G,
social.
incidentally.
Right.
I'm very online. I'm not hard to find.
Oh.
Just Google my name. Just type Dave Gilbert Games. You'll find me. I'm out there. It's not hard.
Absolutely. But again, word of mouth and getting things out there. Dave, you made so many great games. And
Thank you.
And as somebody that loves the adventure game genre and really appreciates when people put in the hard work and stuff to keep this hobby and to keep the type of media that I enjoy alive, I really do appreciate it.
Oh, thank you so much. That means a lot. Even after all this time, that just means the world. So thank you.
So
I wouldn't be doing this otherwise.
Yeah, well, it's I hope you're doing it for another 2 decades. Well, I mean, retire. I mean, you don't have to stay at work on my account, but I mean, keep making great stuff for sure.
I can't envision like not doing it. But yeah, I'll as long as I'm able, I want to do this. So at this point, there's really not much else I know how to do. So I'm stuck either way.
Well, there's always improv. No, wait.
Let's go back to that.
But Dave, thanks so much. I really appreciate your time today.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.